This is an overview of some of the features found in the Google Plus Tweaks Chrome extension and user script for GreaseMonkey. If you've got it correctly installed, the first thing you'll see is that under the Google Gear options, you'll now see a new menu item called Google Plus Tweaks. Clicking on that is going to bring up the extension's options dialog, and this is designed to give you full control over everything that the script can do. Normally a lot of these features are going to be enabled by default, but I've gone ahead and disabled them so that we can look at things one at a time. The last thing I'll say, I do work on this as a hobby. I don't get paid for this, so if you like it, please feel free to go ahead and click on the donate button to give me, buy me a cup of coffee through PayPal. It's always appreciated. So first thing I want to look at is these tabs up here. We can go over a bunch of general options. We have some elements that we can hide. This tab refers to some of the advanced selectors. Usually only other extension developers are going to pay attention to this, if at all. The Issues and Planned Features tab is a way to keep track of what's going on with the extension, what still needs to be done, and then just general information about the extension. So starting with the Hide tab, I'm going to go ahead and look at what we can do. We can hide the chat list, which will allow me to get rid of this box I've had to put over my contacts for privacy's sake for the video. I can hide the feedback link that's traditionally at the bottom of the page. I can hide that little plus mention symbol before people's names. It's kind of like the @ in Twitter, and I find that a bit redundant because if it's a link, why bother adding something additional to show, hey, this is a profile. I could hide the entire right column in the stream, which is over here, but rather than doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just hide the suggestions, which are right here, and the send invites box. I'm also going to hide the copyright that's at the bottom of the page. If I click save and reload, it'll do exactly what it says, and as the page comes back, you can see that it's gotten rid of that chat box, and the suggestions are gone, and there you go. Now, next thing we want to take a look at is, let's see, the full width option. You can see there's a lot of white space on the right and left, and by going into the options and checking full width, it'll do exactly what it sounds like. Forces Google Plus to take the entire width of your browser, and for me, at least, you can get more on the screen. It's easier to read. I prefer this. Next thing we're going to do to continue the idea of making it easier to read, we're going to check the readability option. This is based on a feature implemented in an extension by, I don't remember the author, but it's called Google Plus Ultimate, so big shout out to them for giving me the idea to implement this in my own work. And what that does is color everything that's not a post with this same gray background, so it shifts the focus to the posts themselves. Next, I want to look at fixed navigation. You can see as we scroll through here, they actually did implement the fixed Google bar and Google Plus bar. That was a direct result of copying some of what we extension developers did to put that in place, and a great feature. Glad they implemented that. But we can go a little bit further with this extension by fixing the actual navigation, which is going to pin the navigation so it stays visible no matter what. Makes it a little bit easier to scroll through your circles. You can see this navigation is now pinned on the left and right, so if I want to switch to people I'm just following, if I want to switch back to the mainstream, it's just right there no matter how far down I've gone. And personally, I don't always want to see comments on posts right away. I like to collapse things a little bit. So if we enable the toggle comments and inline +1s and shares options, what we're going to see is that allows us to get even more on the screen very quickly. First thing you'll note here is that the number of comments have been collapsed into a little button that I can click to expand, and I can click on this button down here to move them back up. Now, I get that they implemented this functionality here so I can really expand everything, but sometimes I don't even want to see the latest comments on very big posts. I just want to see how many there are. The second option we checked there, that inline +1s and shares, collapse those numbers right next to their respective buttons so we don't have those additional 2 lines taking up vertical space. And I can still click on these and get access to the relevant information. This next feature was inspired by Matt Mistracci's Replies and More extension for Chrome, and it allows you to easily mention people. So normally if I want to make a comment on this and I want to kind of ping Matt and let him know, hey, I'm talking directly to you, I would type plus and then start typing, and there we go. But to make that a little bit faster, what we're going to do is enable the Easy Mentions function. And what that's going to do is add a little +1 button next to everybody's name, even in here in the comments. So if I need to easily mention someone, I can just click that button, say, let's see, yeah, and I can also mention to other people, etc. Let me just pause this while I finish this message. You don't need to sit here while I type this. So now if I post this comment, you can see that the mention works just fine. One of the things I love about Google Plus is that you can mute a post so that it goes away and never comes back when people comment on it if you get sick of it, or you already know and you don't care anymore. This next feature allows you to do that really quickly. It's actually the thing that inspired me to write this entire library. It's called the mute button, and as you know, when you mute something, you get a little line that shows you you've muted this post, and those can accumulate pretty quickly. So what we're going to do is actually hide those so that they don't show up at all, so we can just click through and very quickly mute things. As the page comes back, you'll see that the extension now adds this little button. Makes it very easy to scroll through here, say, this is that post about being able to share circles. Okay, I know about this. Click that. Oop, it's gone. Scubble's posting about the APIs. I care about that. I don't know what this is. I care less. Mute, gone. Hey, lizard. Mute, gone. Mute, gone. This is very useful for dealing with Scubble stuff. Next thing I want to look at is the ability to give a little bit more formatting to posts. As we can see here, this makes sense. We've got a header, it's underlined. I'm talking about something called Markdown. Here's a link to it. Chrome users can update using this link, etc. This is a bit of a bulleted list. So what we're looking for is a way to make this post much more interesting. This is a feature that's enabled by default. And what it does is basically parse Markdown within posts. Now, for more information about Markdown, you can click here. It's basically a lot of that syntax you see in that post. And as you can see, the post looks much different with it enabled. We get an actual heading. And one of the coolest things is that we actually get text links here. If you remember, it was a bracket and then Markdown and parentheses and a link. Well, now that I can actually see text that I can click on. And this is actually already implemented with links to YouTube. If you post a YouTube link, instead of showing the URL, it shows the title of the YouTube video. But this allows you to create inline links with just about any text inside. You'll also notice that those stars have been translated to bullets, and we have text links here. I also have an image that's actually within the message itself. Here's another post. One of the original ones I first did when I released this feature. You can see it before, and there it is. It translates to a big post. We can do inline images, we can do bullets, again, inline images. So it gives us a lot more potential to create more formatted posts with a lot more interest without setting it up so that it looks really strange for someone that doesn't have this extension enabled. So what I'm going to do is disable it so you can see what this post looks like without it. There we go. Still quite readable, not as elegant, but it makes perfect sense. And I'm hoping that they'll implement something like this, if not exactly Markdown, in the near future, because it really does give us a way of adding some more styling to our posts. I know that you can wrap things with an asterisk to make it bold or underline to make it italic, and those still work, but we'd love to see more of that in the core Google Plus functionality. Another thing this extension allows us to do is force images within posts to be the size of thumbnails. As we can see here, these are a little bit large, and maybe you'd rather just have a little preview of it. So we can enable two things to accomplish this. One is thumbnails only, force that to be thumbnails, and the second thing we're going to do is enable image previews so that I can mouse over images and have them actually show up full size. As you can see, we've got this image that's been shrunk down to the size of a thumbnail, and if we mouse over that, give it a second, it comes up the size of the original image. Again, scrolling down. There we go, and as you can see, it's even bigger than the one that we had originally. Now this works with just about anything. It works with avatars, love me some oatmeal, and we'll just make things a little bit faster and hopefully a little bit more enjoyable as you're scrolling through your posts. I hope you find this extension useful and that it really makes your Google Plus experience that much better. Again, if it makes a difference for you and you have a little bit of money to spare, any donations, buy me a cup of coffee, always appreciated, and you can do that through the options window by clicking on the donate link and just sending a little of my way through PayPal.